In the dining hall of Casium, the mood was light with casual conversation filling the air. Landro turned to his sister. "You should eat the carrots," he said. "I don't want to," Lena replied flatly. Across the table, Ethel clenched her teeth, silently watching the exchange. Landro sighed. "You need to eat well." Lena shrugged, poking at her plate with a fork. "I don't like them. And I won't die if I don't eat them." With a smile tugging at the corner of his lips, Landro asked, "Why don't you like carrots?" Before Lena could respond, the Duke's voice thundered through the hall. "No one has the right to force my daughter to eat something she doesn't like," he barked, rising to his feet. He turned to the servants. "Anyone who puts dishes she dislikes on the table again can consider themselves unemployed." The servants trembled, their eyes wide as they bowed their heads toward their furious master. "Father!" Lena shouted, rising abruptly. Tears welled in her eyes. "Please calm down. You can't fire people over something so small. You're not like this." The Duke cleared his throat, awkwardly settling back into his chair. "This time, I'll ignore what just happened." Her brothers exchanged glances, amazed by their little sister's boldness. In their eyes, she was still as innocent as a rabbit. Ethel, however, seethed. She couldn't understand what any of this had to do with a 20-year-old woman. Landro noticed the change in his wife's demeanor. There was a strange aura about her. Concern flickered in his expression. "Are you feeling unwell?" he asked. "I'm fine," Ethel replied quietly, though her appetite had long vanished. She couldn't exactly say it was because of them. Landro turned to his sister again. "Come on, eat the carrots. I'll give you something in return." "I'll give you something too," Ro chimed in with a grin. Lena frowned. "Why do you both want to give me gifts? It's not a special day." Landro nudged his brother. "What about a gift for your wife? She looks upset." Ethel raised an eyebrow. "You prepared a gift for me?" she asked. Landro looked at her, confused. "What gift? Today's just an ordinary day, isn't it?" Ethel stared at her husband in disbelief. "Today is our wedding anniversary," she said quietly. "Exactly 2 years." His eyes widened as the realization hit him. Ro and Lena burst into laughter. "You're a terrible husband," Ro teased. "How do you forget something like that?" The Duke sighed. "When you start a family, you need to take care of it." Ethel stood abruptly, anger radiating from her. She didn't understand why everyone was acting like this was a joke. "It's not just about forgetting," she snapped. Landro rubbed the back of his neck. "It's not entirely my fault. I forgot, okay?" Ethel stared at him. "Is it that hard to apologize?" He raised an eyebrow. "Is there some law requiring husbands to give their wives gifts on their anniversary?" She was stunned, too angry to speak. For a moment, she wondered how she'd ever thought she was lucky. She had believed she'd been given a second chance when she found herself inside her favorite novel after the car accident, reborn as Lena, the Duke's youngest daughter, and surrounded by love. But this was not the story she'd read. Ethel Wallace was now the wife of Landro, Lena's older brother, a minor supporting character in the novel. Landro had always been her favorite, the perfect man, capable, composed, handsome. Even if theirs had been a marriage of convenience, she had thought being part of the ducal family would be a blessing. At the very least, it was a front-row seat to the unfolding plot. But reality was far from fiction. Landro folded his arms. "An anniversary is something you celebrate together. Besides, you didn't get me anything either." Ethel felt slapped. In the novel, she hadn't viewed the story from her own point of view. He'd left her alone on their honeymoon. Her first anniversary gift was sent through an assistant. Still smiling tightly, she said, "Today is also my birthday. I just wanted to spend it with you." Landro gave her a cold look. "I'm busy." Her smile faltered. "Would you at least take a walk with me?" "I'm going for a walk with my sister," he snapped. Ethel's heart clenched. She had always been left behind. She had never thought he would treat her as if she were nobody. Landro shrugged. "So it's not my fault. Before he could finish, something small and wrapped flew across the room and smacked him in the face. Everyone froze. Ethel stood still, her gaze burning into him. "I want a divorce," she screamed. Landro stared at her, stunned. "What?" "I want a divorce. As soon as possible." The Duke stood up. "Are you serious?" She didn't look back at them. "Goodbye." The maids hurried after her, but Ethel was already walking away. Even as she left, she knew she couldn't forget herself. But she wasn't going to walk away empty-handed. Later, Ro entered the room. "Wife," he called gently, "are you serious about the divorce?" Ethel didn't even glance at him. "I've made myself clear." Landro blocked her path. "Why?" "Because I forgot the anniversary." "You think that's the only reason?" she asked, stepping back. Landro sighed. "We're not the ideal couple. This was a marriage of convenience." "I know that." "Then what is the reason?" He gestured toward a nearby chair, where a pristine white gown lay draped. "Look to the side. That dress, every time I see you wear it, I remember our wedding and how happy I was." Ethel looked at it coldly. "I hate that dress. It's not mine." He blinked. "What are you talking about?" "A few months before the wedding, we had a fitting at the duchy. I never chose that dress. While you were reading a book, you told me it looked good, and that was that." She could still recall the way his eyes barely lifted from the pages. Her parents had been thrilled she was marrying a duke. Her brother had told her she was destined for greatness. None of them really cared what she wanted. But at least she'd had a chance to choose a dress for herself. Then Lena had burst into the fitting room, all smiles. "Can I try it on too?" she had asked sweetly, eyes sparkling. Ethel hadn't known what to say. "It looks so cute," Lena had said, running her hands down the fabric. Ethel had understood her. She had once done the same thing, trying on gowns she had no intention of buying. Landro had looked confused. "Didn't you try that one on?" "No," Ethel snapped. "That was your sister, not me. I would never mistake my wife for someone else." "Oh, really? Are you saying I'm stupid? I think you made up a story that never happened." Ethel froze. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I didn't say that," he muttered. "But, despite the similarities between you two, it's easy to be confused." She shook her head in disbelief. "You really can't tell the difference between me and your sister." He was still looking at her, confused. "Why didn't you say something earlier?" "Because it wouldn't matter." He frowned. "All I asked for was a gift from my wife. You responded by asking for a divorce." She looked him straight in the eye. "That's because it shows where I stand in this house. You haven't changed at all since the wedding." "And what was I like before?" she asked. "Go ahead, point out the inconsistencies." He didn't answer. Ethel realized then, this family had never truly made space for her. She was just another presence, convenient but not welcome. Landro finally spoke. "My family is unusually close-knit. And I'm not part of it. So I'll leave." He reached for her, but she slapped his hand away and shoved him back. "I'll prepare the divorce papers. You'll just need to sign them." "Ethel," he shouted. "Stop. I've heard enough of your nonsense," she snapped. He blinked, stunned. "What did you just say?" She turned, voice sharp and final. "You're a nobody." Then she left. Downstairs, the servants watched in silence. Lena and Lihim approached her, disbelief on their faces. "You're not really going to divorce our brother, are you?" Lena asked. The Duke stepped forward. "You don't have to do this." But Ethel didn't stop. She walked out of the estate. Later, she collapsed onto the bed of her temporary room with a small, tired smile. Her packing had been hurried, imperfect, but it didn't matter. Comfort could come later. First, she needed to get a divorce. Back at the estate, Ro turned to Landro. "You're just going to let her go?" Landro looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean your wife," Ro said. "You're really letting her leave?" Landro waved it off. "She'll come back." Ro frowned. "She asked for a divorce. She's just angry. A wise woman like her, she'll calm down. Our marriage didn't start with love, Landro muttered. So it won't end that easily. Landro stared at him. Are you sure about that? He asked. Landro only smiled. Lena had once said that her brother would survive anything, that he always found a way. Landro understood his brother better than anyone. He knew that, in just the right moment, their sister would always drop some piece of useful information, something that caught people off guard. And surprisingly, everything she said usually turned out to be true. Landro sighed deeply. I won't allow a divorce, he muttered. A knock came at the door. Young master, are you awake? The butler asked, his voice muffled. Before he could finish, Landro opened the door. The butler called out, Wait, sir. But it wasn't the butler standing there. It was the postman. Landro blinked, confused. You're not, wait, where is my wife? The postman looked at him, just as bewildered. I was told to give you this, sir. He handed over a sealed envelope. Landro tore it open and stared down at the document inside. It was a divorce agreement. His breath caught. He was in shock. A short while later, he stormed into the place where Ethel had agreed to meet him. Fury burned in his chest as he spotted her. She turned, startled by his sudden appearance. You sent me divorce papers, he snapped. She raised an eyebrow, calm but cold. Did you think I sent them as a joke? His fists clenched. Do you really want to leave me? Why are you pretending to care now? She asked, exasperated. I've been worried sick, he shouted, stepping closer. I didn't ask for your concern. Their voices grew louder, echoing in the space. He seemed stunned that she dared shout back. I thought about a lot after you left, Landro said, his voice quieter now. Ethel crossed her arms. Then sign the papers. He froze. I don't understand how you can act like this. Because your apologies mean nothing. Are you trying to make yourself the victim now? He asked bitterly. She looked him dead in the eye. No. I'm just making sure I never have to see your face again. Landro's mouth twitched into a grin. Well, that's too bad. I accidentally tore the papers. Good thing I prepared extra copies, she replied with a cool smile, pulling another set from her bag. You can tear up all you want, he said, but it won't matter. I won't agree to divorce you. Then we'll go to court. You can't take this to court. Why not? You think I can't remove you and your family from my life? She raised her voice, loud enough for the nearby townsfolk to hear. I want a divorce. Gasps echoed down the street. The Duke's family name carried weight, and now, the scandal had begun. Landro stepped in close. What are you doing? Ethel smirked. Waiting to see who breaks first. She knew she couldn't win quietly, this would be a messy war. But she no longer cared about preserving dignity. She thought ahead, trying to imagine the questions she'd be asked in court. One might be about finances. Landro had continued giving her 5,000 gold coins each month. At first glance, he seemed like a decent husband. But there was something else, something serious enough to justify divorce. She wasn't ready to bring it up with a lawyer yet. Landro ran a hand through his hair. I'm not good at expressing my feelings. But I love you. She was thrown. Why are you doing this? Because it's the truth. I married you because I loved you. That's not true, she snapped. There were families with higher status than mine. I know why you married me, because of the abandoned mines. He flinched. She went on, voice sharp. You married me because you wanted to acquire the land the mines sat on. My family abandoned them years ago when the ore began to deteriorate. But I know, as do you, that those mines will become valuable again, golden eggs. His face paled. I know this because I read the novel, she whispered. Landro looked stunned. How do you know that? You let it slip when you were drunk, she said. You don't remember it. But I do. Landro opened his mouth but couldn't speak. You told me you married me for Lena. So she could have a better life. He winced. That's how it started. But I fell in love with you. After we met. Then why did you leave me alone after the wedding? Her voice cracked with pain. You left me. On our honeymoon. You sent our anniversary gift through an assistant. Landro couldn't reply. I've heard lies before, but that one's the worst, she said bitterly. Do you think I'm a fool? He stepped forward, reaching for her hand. Please, let me explain. She pulled away. Are you upset because you won't be able to get your hands on the mines anymore? Is that it? Landro looked genuinely hurt, but she continued. They belong to me. They're my dowry. If anything, my father should reclaim them before handing them to you. New technology had made deep extraction more viable. The mines still held precious ore, but accessing it required time and resources. Her family hadn't sent her any documents about ownership yet, but she had prepared for this. She'd already heard rumors that the family accountant had collapsed from overwork. Still, she needed to finalize the divorce fast, before pressure from her in-laws grew. To clear her head, she walked to the forest of travelers on the outskirts of the territory. Suddenly, a bird shot up from the trees, startling her. Then she heard it, footsteps. Peering through the trees, she saw him, Marquis Turen Fryden, the main villain of the novel. She froze. Turen Fryden, one of the most powerful nobles in the empire, whose true identity was long concealed. Ethel knew his history, but she hadn't expected to meet him so soon. Panic surged. She needed a plan. Perhaps, she could say she had lost her memory. But before she could speak, his voice rang out coldly. If a man values his life, he'd better show himself. He drew his sword in a flash. A crash echoed nearby. A tree splintered just feet from where she stood. Another man leapt from the shadows, sword raised. Turen met the attack with grace and fury. The assailant tried to land a blow, but the Marquis sidestepped, then countered with lightning precision. Turen scoffed. Is that all you've got? He muttered. He dispatched the mercenary with ease. Ethel trembled behind a tree. Her legs gave out and she tumbled backward, falling off a short cliff. She braced for impact, but was caught. Opening her eyes, she saw Turen holding her tightly. Up close, he was breathtakingly handsome. She scrambled from his grasp. Thank you, she stammered. What are you doing in a place like this? He asked. I must have taken a wrong path, she lied. The forest is on the opposite side of the road. She swallowed. I came on an errand. What kind? It's personal. He frowned. All you'll find in this area are wandering mercenaries. She knew he suspected her. Time to pivot. Well, I'm actually trying to hire a few mercenaries, she admitted. I left my husband. He says he'll never let me go. I'm afraid he'll come after me. He considered her. You're a noble woman. I can't afford a personal knight, she said. I see, he replied. Then I apologize. I didn't know your circumstances. You've already helped me. I should be going. They walked together for a while. She stumbled slightly and looked up at a tree, remembering how the branch had split. You're very skilled, she said, stealing a sideways glance at him. He smiled. You won't regret hiring me. She blinked. Wait, what? I'm a mercenary. I'm looking for work. I can't pay much. I'll take the minimum, he replied easily. She paused. This could be the perfect chance to stay close and gather intel. All right, she said. You're hired. His expression softened. Call me Thea. She was startled. So this was Turen Fryden, the villain, now her bodyguard. She knew she had to hide her marriage. If he found out she was Landro's wife, he'd become suspicious. So she gave him her maiden name instead. No need for formality, Thea said. I was born to a humble family. No surname. He was lying, effortlessly. She smiled anyway. As they walked, she studied him. He truly was attractive. If this had been just a novel or an illustration, she might have picked him from the start. Where are you staying? He asked. A small hotel. Then I'll stay there too, he offered. I can pay for your room and service once a week. I'll manage, he replied. But thank you. She raised an eyebrow. Do you even have money? He cleared his throat. Let's just say, I appreciate your kindness. She could tell he wasn't used to accepting help, even when it was needed. Later that night, Thea sat in a chair, watching over her as she slept peacefully in the hotel bed. He frowned at her. Why had he caught her earlier? It was unlike him. He didn't understand why, but something about her intrigued him. Sighing, he penned a note. He'd be delayed on his next mission. For now, he had a job to do. In the morning, Ethel entered a local shop to buy medicinal herbs for tea. She noticed the Marquis was rubbing his temples. His weakness, headaches. It was the price of divine power, a curse given to those in the imperial bloodline. Terence and Crown Prince Michael, both sons of the Emperor, had not been spared. Terence had been the Emperor's firstborn, his mother the Marquis of Mu. But after the Emperor's brother died, the second prince ascended, and the Marquis vanished, rumored to have fled with a coachman she loved. Years later, she returned with her son. Terence. Kidnapped on the orders of the Emperor and the Duke, she was never vindicated. Her child, Terence, bore imperial blood, but was never acknowledged. He was meant to be crown prince. But a conspiracy stole that from him. Now, Terence lived in shadows. And the more power he wielded, the more the pain grew. He relied on Devil's Claw, a dangerous drug. So did Lena. Both had been cursed. Ethel bought the herbs. A tea brewed from them could ease the pain. In the novel, Lena discovered the remedy much later, but Ethel would be the first. She handed the bag to him. Shall we go? She asked with a warm smile. She'd thought about using Terence's power to secure a divorce and escape the Empire. But now that she'd met him, her plans were changing. He asked why she needed holy water. I want to brew something special, she answered casually. Suddenly, his expression shifted. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her aside. What are you? Tell me what's going on, she whispered. He leaned in close, his breath warm against her ear. Quiet, he murmured. Ethel's heart pounded. He was too close. A moment later, Ethel saw a familiar face in the crowd. Her eyes widened. Tara. Ethel's heart skipped a beat. Had she been following me this whole time? Before she could speak, Thea drew his sword, lunging at the girl without hesitation. Tara dodged, retaliated with quick movements, but within seconds Thea had her pinned to the ground, blade at her throat. Why are you following us? He demanded. Tara cried out, My lady, help me. Thea glanced back at Ethel, surprised. You know her. She's a maid from my husband's household, Ethel said evenly. Tara, still trembling beneath Thea's blade, gasped, I saw you, and followed you. I have something to say. If that were true, Ethel replied, voice sharp, you wouldn't have been stalking me in secret. Her gaze narrowed. Was it Lena? Did she send you? Tara looked up, confused. Why would my mistress do that? You've followed me before, Ethel said coldly. Always watching. Always trying to find something to report. That's your job, isn't it? Tara flinched. Lena's loyal dog. Tara's family had once been given land in return for their undying loyalty, but it had been a trap. That same night, they lost their home, and Tara lost everything. In Lena's first life, Tara had eventually snapped, retaliated, and been executed for murdering a noble. After returning to the past, Lena, who had never known Tara, sought her out and offered her the means to exact revenge. Tara's obsessive devotion and talent for information gathering had made her an ideal weapon. Now, Thea held his knife at Tara's throat. Shall I finish her? Ethel raised a hand. Leave us. I want to speak to her alone. The Marquis nodded. I'll move far enough not to hear. Tara looked stunned as Ethel approached. If you're willing to cooperate, Ethel said softly, I'll tell you where to find the man you want dead. The Viscount. Tara's eyes widened in disbelief. How do you know that? Ethel only smiled. It's a secret. Then tell me this, Ethel continued. How does your mistress know everything if she's not God? Tara scowled. Even if she has power like hers, it doesn't matter. She's still my benefactor. When the time comes, she'll tell me everything. You trust her blindly, Ethel said. She's lying to you. Shut up. Tara hissed. Not even curious about what I know? Ethel asked. Tara's silence was answer enough. I want you to tell Lena something for me. That's it. Tara blinked. It's a reasonable request. I'll give you what you want in 2 months. Tara studied her carefully, uncertain. Lena doesn't deliberately hide things, Ethel thought. She just conveniently knows what others don't. Alla's identity, the stock market's future, it all fits. Ethel's goal was simple: plant seeds of suspicion. If she could drive a wedge between Tara and Lena, at least until the divorce, it would be enough. As Thea returned, he asked with mild amusement, was the conversation productive? You looked like you forgot I existed. Ethel raised a brow. Were you eavesdropping? I wouldn't dare. Orders are orders. She chuckled. Perhaps I should invite my loyal bodyguard to dinner. He gave a mock bow. Gladly. They made their way to the hotel. Lena greeted her maid with a warm smile. How did it go? Tara answered dryly, everything's fine. Lena turned to the other maids. You're free to go. But, Lady Lena, one of them protested, you still need to try on just one more outfit. I need to speak with Tara. Alone. The maids looked stunned. None of them could look away from her sweet, childlike expression. Lena smiled gently. I know you love me. And I'm grateful. But sometimes it's exhausting. Tara waited for the others to leave before speaking. She went out walking. Did some shopping. She laughed a lot. As expected, Lena murmured, she's not taking the divorce seriously. Tara didn't respond. My brother, Lena continued, drinks and talks about how much he loves her. Tara interrupted, are you really planning to give the mines to her? Lena's voice remained soft. For now, yes. The price will only increase with time. I'll keep watching her, Tara promised. No. That's enough, Lena said gently. Return to your main duties. Tara hesitated but obeyed. That evening, Ethel and Thea enjoyed a quiet tea. She smiled at him. Do you like the aroma? It smells good, he said with a faint smile. But the taste is medicinal. She blinked. That's all you can say. You've been drinking it for 3 days. He shrugged. It's not exactly a cure. It's hard to tell if anything's changed. Ethel bit her lip. She couldn't ask about his headaches directly, it would reveal too much. Did I mix it wrong? She glanced at him again and stopped. He had dozed off, right there in the chair. This is perfect. The tea worked. She flipped through the story in her head. Her ability to see the original plot allowed her to mentally reread scenes at will, but the cost was high. She could only use the skill twice a day. She remembered now, he'd fallen asleep like this before. The night before. He stirred and asked, was the bed uncomfortable? I never really used it, she admitted. He sighed. As I thought. These rooms are too cheap for a noblewoman. A moment later, he stood and offered his arm. Let me walk you to your room. She hesitated, then smiled. Thank you. The more time she spent with him, the more she realized Thea was not the man she had expected. Later, as they walked through town, a man approached. He nearly addressed Thea by his title before catching himself. That mercenary has business with me, Thea said calmly. Ethel nodded. Take your time. I'll go on ahead. But before she could walk away, a commotion drew their attention. A carriage pulled up, the Cash's family crest gleaming on the side. Lena stepped out, rushing forward and throwing herself into Ethel's arms. Moments later, they sat in a cafe. Ethel hoped Thea wouldn't follow. What do you want? Ethel asked. The knight standing behind Lena snapped, mind your manners. That's no way to speak to Lady Lena. Ethel narrowed her eyes. He addressed me by name. No title. Lena turned, voice sharp. Don't be rude to my sister. That's an order. Apologize. The knight clenched his jaw. My apologies. Properly, she added. Ethel rolled her eyes. Enough. I'm not a child. And you, she said to Lena, don't need to call me sister anymore. Lena blinked. What are you saying? I came to apologize for my brother. Even if this is about the mines, it's not over yet. She fidgeted, nervous. I had a good feeling once. I bought some porcelain. Researched. Invested. And it worked. My family didn't believe me either at first. Ethel said nothing. She already knew this story. The original novel had explained it all. Lena went on. I have a premonition. These mines will succeed. My brother came to buy them, yes, but he fell for you at first sight. Ethel stiffened. He's not a bad person, Lena said. He just doesn't know when he's lying. When I first came to your house, Ethel said slowly, you liked me? Very much. Ethel's voice turned cold. Then you won't mind if I keep the mines for myself. Lena looked startled. I've suffered for even asking that, Ethel added, but I'm glad you gave permission. She paused. Can I return them to my parents? Lena flinched. Sister, please calm down. I brought you gifts. Ethel narrowed her eyes. So now she hides behind presents. Lena smiled. I didn't know which one you'd like, so I bought everything. The boxes were expensive. Too expensive. Ethel knew Lena's game. Try one on. Lena chirped. It'll look so lovely. No. It won't fit me. Everyone froze. Even the knight stared. Shall I show you the rest? Lena asked sweetly. They spent time opening more gifts, but Ethel found excuse after excuse not to accept them. It didn't matter. They weren't given out of love. They were bribes. Compensation. I'm sorry you were treated that way, Lena said quietly. Maybe you're just angry. At my brother. Ethel stared. What? Lena moved closer. Forget about my brother, just for a moment. Can't you love me? Understand me? Ethel blinked in shock. I'll scold him, Lena promised. Give him another chance. Another chance? Ethel couldn't believe what she was hearing. Why do you assume I like you? She snapped. Lena's eyes went wide. Because, it's impossible not to. Unbelievable. In Lena's world, everyone adored her. Even villains fell at her feet. She had no concept of being hated. Ethel stood. Let me be honest. She met Lena's eyes. I don't like you. I never want to see you again. Leave. Gasps filled the room. Even the maids looked horrified. I'm seeing you out, Ethel added. Leave on your own. The knight lunged forward, enraged. How dare you? But Thea stepped between them. My apologies, he said with a grin. Didn't see you there. Who are you? The knight spat. Just a passerby. Ethel blinked, startled. When did he get here? Had he overheard the entire conversation? The knight raised a hand, but Lena shouted, Stop. You're disgracing our family. She turned to her maid. We're leaving. Ethel stood in silence, watching them go. Thea stepped beside her. Are you all right? She sighed. You weren't supposed to see that. He chuckled. Compared to my family, yours is a model of virtue. She smiled wryly. True enough. He looked at her closely. You didn't mention your husband was from the Cash's family. She hesitated. You didn't ask. He sighed. Divorcing someone from that family won't be easy. I filed the papers, she said, but there's a delay. He nodded. My colleague said someone's waiting for me at home. Ethel blinked. Someone important. He looked away. I suppose. But I see him often. He can wait. She watched him, puzzled. Just who is waiting for you? The young lady paused, thinking over the man Turen often saw, this mysterious someone who apparently couldn't be kept waiting. Then it hit her. The Emperor. Her eyes widened in panic. You need to go. Quickly. Turen blinked, taken aback. I'm not in a hurry. You should be, she insisted. I'll wait. You go. If he really is the emperor, you can't keep him waiting. She was certain now. The man who had been hiding in the shadows, who would soon make his presence known to the world, it was him. Just then, a servant rushed up to the Marquis, breathless. Sir. Please hurry, His Majesty is waiting. Turen frowned. Where? In the main hall. The Emperor is waiting for you. Turen sighed. You should have told him not to wait. He could have returned to the palace. The servant looked horrified. The Emperor insisted. The servant also eyed the Marquis's current attire and added hesitantly, Your clothes, sir, they aren't exactly suitable. Turen brushed it off. I don't have time to change. Moments later, he entered the room where the Emperor waited. He bowed with perfect form and greeted him formally. Your Majesty. Dominic 23, Emperor of Assosa, raised an eyebrow. So you've finally arrived. I've been waiting for quite a while. Turen inclined his head. You should have warned me. I would have prepared. No need for formalities between us, the Emperor said, waving it off. You seem to be enjoying your freedom quite a bit. He examined his son's attire with mild judgment. How long are you planning to wander like this? Honestly, you're dressed like a vagabond. Turen said nothing. Ethel had picked out his clothes. Choose based on quality, she'd said with a smile. Not fashion. A suit is the second face of a businessman. He hadn't understood her at the time. She was too kind to him. Turen, the Emperor snapped. Where is your head? Turen sighed and looked away. I have nothing to say. The Emperor gave a long look. It's time for you to learn the responsibilities of someone with royal blood. Turen frowned. What are you talking about? You are my son, the Emperor said with a rare smile. I want to bring you into the palace. Turen looked away again. I need time to think. There's nothing to think about, the Emperor replied. You were born a prince, whether you accept it or not. Turen had dreamt of this once. But dreams fade. Vitus' influence had weakened. The crown prince was preoccupied with his charitable image, and the empress's power had diminished. This was the moment. Don't you want power? The Emperor asked. Turen didn't answer. He didn't care for power. But he did want to see the Empress's face again, the woman who had sent assassins after him. And he wanted to know how the golden boy would react when life no longer bent to his will. If you inherit the throne, you'll have everything, the Emperor said. Don't tell me you lack desire. Turen stared at the floor, then slowly lifted his gaze. I'll accept. I'll become a prince. The Emperor looked shocked. So you do have something you want? Turen smiled faintly. There's someone I want to help. The Emperor blinked. Who? We'll talk about it later. The Emperor sighed. Always so secretive. Then came the news neither expected. The Duke had been exposed. A few days ago, the imperial court had discovered that the Duke had bribed an official to falsify court documents. You broke the law, the Emperor said coldly. But I'll allow your family to maintain its reputation. The Duke bowed, thanking him profusely. But he turned on his son the moment they were alone. This is your fault. The divorce application has been filed, and we're heading to trial. Everyone will know it was our family. Ro tried to defend himself. I'll make peace with her. Before the court date. If you could have done that, the Duke snapped, we wouldn't be here. I'll succeed, Ro insisted. You won't, the Duke said, bitter and exhausted. You're only making things worse. Ro looked stunned. Then Lena burst into the room. Please stop fighting, she shouted. Father, stop scolding him. This doesn't concern you, the Duke said sternly. It does. He only wanted what's best for the family, she cried. If you keep fighting like this, I swear I'll skip dinner. Everyone froze. I won't eat either, she added solemnly. The Duke stared at her. You'll get sick. She'll faint, Ro muttered. You're our fragile flower, Lame shouted. Lena lifted her chin. Then trust me. And give my brother another chance. The Duke stared at her for a long moment. Then finally said, Do what you want. Lena beamed and hugged him tightly. Turning to her brother, she asked, "So, what's your plan?" "I should apologize," Ro admitted. "Be careful," Lena warned. "She's really angry." "I know. I visited her yesterday," Lena said quietly. "She told me she doesn't love me, and that I should disappear." Lame gasped. "She lied to you." Ro sighed. "I'm sorry, Lena. She took it out on you because of me." "It's fine," she said. "I was surprised at first, but I know she didn't mean it. We actually get along very well." Lame shook his head. "She's lost her mind." Lena looked at her brother. "If you want her back, you'll have to try harder." Ro looked down. "Every time we meet, it only gets worse." Lena's eyes sharpened. "Then listen carefully. I'll give you some advice." Meanwhile, Ethel strolled through the garden outside the hotel, breathing in the fresh summer air. "The weather's perfect," she said to Thea. "Shall we have tea in the gazebo?" He smiled. "Only if you allow me to order it." She laughed softly. The divorce process was moving faster than expected. She was sure Thea had a hand in that. She wanted to thank him, with tea. Then she noticed a group of whispering girls. Before she could react, a familiar carriage pulled into the courtyard. "No." A moment later, her husband appeared. Landro approached with a bright smile. "Ethel." She froze in disbelief. Then, to her horror, he knelt before her. "I'm sorry," he said. "Please, give me another chance." "What are you doing?" "Get up," she hissed. "I won't," he said stubbornly. "Not until you forgive me." "Landro," she growled through clenched teeth, "get up. Now." He only smiled wider. "Don't worry, I'm not concerned about my knees or pride." Fury flashed in her eyes. "Follow me. Now." He trailed after her eagerly. "Why are you here?" she snapped once they were out of sight. "To apologize." "You're my wife." She scoffed. "Unbelievable. I made mistakes. I want to change." "It's too late. You interrupted my walk, made a public scene. Is this how nobles behave?" "If I'd warned you, you wouldn't have come," he muttered. "Of course not. I have every right to refuse to see you." "We're married," he said incredulously. "Can't a husband visit his wife? Can we even be called husband and wife?" she shot back. He hesitated. "Do you think I'll just forgive you?" He looked down. Lena explained everything, about the mines. "You mean you first came to me for those mines, and then, what? Fell in love?" "It's not nonsense. I did fall for you. I just couldn't say it. You've ignored me for years." "I know. This is the end," she said flatly. "What you do next is up to you." He stepped closer. "If you come home, I'll cherish you properly. I'll do everything right." She took the bouquet from his hands and tossed it in the trash barrel. "It's too late." Landro stared in disbelief. "Don't waste time. Leave," she said coldly. He reached for her. "Ethel, please, just one more chance." "Let go," she snapped. "I'll make time for you, I swear." "I don't want your time. I want you gone. Why won't you talk to me?" "I have talked. Ask Kay. She told you everything." Landro froze. Suddenly, someone shoved him back. Thea stood there, sword glinting. "Don't cling to people who don't want you," he said. He turned to Ethel. "Apologies for the delay. I waited until the tea shop owner returned." Landro stared. "Who the hell are you?" He eyed the sword. "You're no ordinary waiter." Thea grinned. "I can make tea. But that's not my specialty." Ethel sighed. "He's my bodyguard." "Bodyguard?" Landro echoed in disbelief. "Yes. For situations like this." "What kind of relationship do you have with this man?" he demanded. Thea smirked. "Is your ex-husband hard of hearing?" "I heard you." Landro barked. "And I'm not her ex. We're still married." "Apologies," Thea said smoothly. "I meant soon-to-be ex-husband." Ethel gave Thea a warning look. "Don't provoke him." She turned to Landro. "Say what you need to say and leave." Landro glared at Thea. You've been with her this whole time? We only go out together, Ethel answered calmly. You're still married, Ethel. She stared at him, stunned by the audacity. You're my wife, and you're parading around with a mercenary? What if people misunderstand? She narrowed her eyes. Ethel stared at her husband with a cold expression. And what, exactly, do you think people might misunderstand? Landro crossed his arms. They might think you've been unfaithful. She smiled thinly. Ah, so it might look like I'm having an affair. I don't doubt your integrity, he said quickly. But others might talk. Ethel's smile didn't fade. Well, as long as you trust me, I don't care what others think. Landro looked shaken. Your reputation could be at risk. She narrowed her eyes. And how are you behaving right now? He blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? She stepped closer. Is Chris with you by any chance? His expression faltered. Why are you bringing up Chris? Ethel's eyes glinted. What kind of man is Chris? Landro hesitated, then said weakly, Chris is a woman. She arched an eyebrow. And would you like me to choose between you and Chris? No. Of course not. Exactly, Ethel snapped. Because I never asked you to. I've never been jealous. Landro threw his hands up. It's not the same, isn't it? She asked sharply. Our relationship is purely business, he shouted. Ethel gave a humorless laugh. Then so is mine with Thea. He's my bodyguard. She crossed her arms. I told you before. You spend half your time with Chris. I was exhausted, he muttered. Can't you understand how it feels to come home after work? Her heart twisted, not with guilt, but with exasperation. You're always tired. But I'm always waiting. He sighed. I really am tired. Then let's end this unpleasant conversation here, she said flatly. Landro's face hardened. I'll change. I will. She shook her head. I don't believe a word of it. His expression darkened. What if I gave you the mines? Ethel's eyes narrowed. There it is again. You'd still want them registered in Lena's name, wouldn't you? She said, voice rising. That's what really matters to you, your precious sister's happiness. He stammered. I swear, they'll stay untouched. I'll do whatever you ask. Just put them in her name. No, she growled. You will never get the mines. He recoiled. You're joking. She took a step back, her voice quiet but firm. It doesn't matter anymore. Even if you left the mines untouched, even if you turned into the man of my dreams overnight, I wouldn't care. He stared at her. I told you the truth before, she said. And I'm telling it again. Leave me. Go back to your beloved sister. Live the rest of your life with her. Landro looked devastated. Ethel. She turned to Thea. Let's go. Ethel walked away, head high, heart blazing with fury. She didn't glance back. Let them whisper. Let Lena hear. Let them all see who he really is. She knew Landro and Terence had crossed paths. That would reach Lena soon enough. And it would be better if Thea had remained just a bodyguard. But he wasn't. Not anymore. She needed to contact Tara immediately and find out what was happening inside the Cash's family. I'm sorry about my husband, she said quietly, not looking at Terence. He gave a small smile. Ex-husband. Ethel blinked, then laughed softly. You're right. She looked at him again. Did he offend you? Not at all, he said, brushing it off. I just didn't want you to feel awkward. I don't, he said kindly. Truly. She studied his face. He was calm, but something flickered beneath the surface. Why do you look so down? He hesitated. Your ex-husband is better looking than I expected. She blinked, then laughed. Is that what's bothering you? He's not that handsome. Terence turned toward her, surprised. In fact, she said, her voice soft, you're far more handsome than him, Thea. He froze. Caught completely off guard, he looked away, flustered. The tea must be working. She smiled. Oh. How do you know? My headaches. I've had migraines since I was a child. But lately. He looked at her, amazed. They've subsided. Ethel beamed. Then I'm glad. Would you like the recipe? I'd like to pay you for it, he said. What are the ingredients? And the cost? Her eyes twinkled. I'll give it to you. But I'd like a favor in return. He tilted his head. Anything. Her expression turned serious. Help me, with the divorce, Marquis Fryden. He froze. The smile dropped from his face, replaced with shock. How do you know who I am? I overheard your servant call you by your title, she admitted. He groaned. That idiot. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to set you up. And you only figured it out because of that. Ethel tilted her head. No. That just confirmed it. I recognized the inconsistencies. I may not be a socialite, but I was meant to be a duchess. I've seen most of the noble faces. She stepped closer. You weren't one of them. Not during the ball season. Which means you either never left the capital, or you don't have land. He gave a weary laugh. Only one person fits all that. Marquis Fryden. She nodded. You confirmed what I already suspected. He stared at her. You're more dangerous than you look. You should have pretended to be a commoner better. He grinned. Then allow me to properly introduce myself. I'm Terence Fryden. I do hold the title of Marquis. But as you said, that doesn't really matter. He extended a hand. In exchange for the recipe, I'll help you with your divorce. Ethel smiled. You don't need to pay me. But, you must know my situation isn't simple. Which is why I'll pay for it, he said firmly. It's your creation. You should be compensated. Technically, it had been Lena's recipe in the novel. But Ethel wasn't about to argue. How can I help you, exactly? He asked. Is it financial? She shook her head. I need political support. First and foremost, to keep Duke Cassius out of the courtroom. He narrowed his eyes. Do you really think he'll interfere? I'd bet everything I have. But why do you think I can stop him? I'm just the Emperor's bastard. She smiled gently. You pushed the divorce papers through the court, didn't you? He blinked. Why would you think that? I got the notice the day after you left, she said softly. I want to believe it was you. Terence looked at her, speechless. I feel like I'm fighting this whole battle alone, she whispered. But when I imagine someone is quietly helping me behind the scenes, it gives me strength. He frowned. Ethel. She looked away, afraid she'd said too much. But then he smiled and asked, would you like to take a walk? She blinked, surprised. Now. The weather's nice. They strolled together through the shopping district. Want to stop by a shop? She asked playfully. He raised a brow. Don't tell me you're buying me another gift. Of course not, she said. You're much richer than I am. He grinned. Still, I swear I'll repay you for your generosity. She laughed. Is that even possible? You could ask for something in return, he said. All right. I won't hold back. I'm afraid your wishes might bankrupt me. They wandered through shops, trying to find something she liked. Terence watched her with growing amusement as she debated between a dozen trinkets. Then, without hesitation, he told the shopkeeper, we'll take everything. Ethel flushed. That's not necessary. I've already picked something. Afterward, they stopped at a small cafe. I'll treat you to dessert, she said. I don't like sweets, he muttered with a sigh. She laughed again. They walked slowly back to the hotel, Terence carrying all her shopping bags without complaint. My life used to be dull, he said quietly. I was told to be invisible. Never to ask for more. Even my name. I had to hide behind aliases. You need time, she said gently. You don't have to decide anything now. I'll wait. He stopped, turning to look at her. She smiled back, steady and sincere. I'm moving to the Red Branch Hotel, she said. If I'm not in, you can leave a message at the front desk. His expression flickered. You're going alone? She raised a brow. You sound like I don't need a bodyguard anymore. I'm sorry, he said. Do you not want me to come with you? She was startled. I didn't want to impose. I can protect you and think at the same time, he said with a small smile. Our agreement doesn't interfere with my duty. She smiled. Then yes. Let's go together. He returned the smile. Where are we heading now? To William Street, she replied. I want to see a lawyer. He paused. Is that a problem? He smiled. No. Just call me Thea. She grinned. Let's go then, Thea. Ethel sipped her tea, seated in a small but cluttered law office. The woman across from her, Sharon Matings, was a rising divorce lawyer, though her workspace looked anything but organized. Still, Lena had confirmed Sharon's talent in the original story. It had been Sharon who handled the high-profile divorce of a noble woman escaping domestic abuse, and that woman had turned out to be the lost daughter of Leok's ambassador. I'd like to hire you, Ethel said. Sharon sighed. It won't be easy. I don't care. I want this divorce. You know, you could hire someone more experienced. But you're the only one who specializes in this. Ethel leaned forward. And I believe you won't be tempted by the cash's bribes. Sharon blinked. Your case will be the highest-profile divorce in the Empire's history. I know, Ethel said. I don't think I'm qualified to handle something like that. Ethel smiled. Are you afraid others will stop filing for divorce if we lose? Sharon stiffened. Ethel stepped closer. I've been watching your work for a while. You've helped dozens of women pro bono. You've gone into debt to do it. You care. I'm not a commoner, Sharon said. You could hire anyone. I tried. Everyone refused me. You're my last hope. If I fail, others will be too afraid to try. You could lose your livelihood. Sharon narrowed her eyes. Are you trying to scare me? Ethel met her gaze calmly. No. Just making a logical prediction. Ethel smiled gently. This isn't just a risk, it's also a great opportunity. Sharon met her eyes and gave a nod of agreement. You're right. If we succeed, you'll be the first to win a public divorce against Duke Cassius. Ethel's expression hardened. And I will succeed. Sharon hesitated, folding her hands on the desk. The most important thing is whether you have objective grounds for the divorce. Even if you do, the Duke's influence can harm us. Severely. I have grounds, Ethel said firmly. My husband has never. She trailed off, her voice lowering. He's never touched me. The room fell silent. The Marquis stiffened, visibly shocked. Sharon blinked in disbelief. You mean he never fulfilled his marital duties? Ethel nodded, her voice heavy. Not once. I waited. I made excuses. But nothing ever changed. Sharon's brows furrowed. If there's an issue with performance, it could be attributed to the infernal bloodline of the Cassius. There are rumors. Terence glanced away, clearly uncomfortable. Sharon continued, more serious now. If he married you while hiding something so important, that alone could be valid grounds for divorce. Ethel bit her lip, tears rising. I don't know if he's incapable. I don't know anything for certain. But he never tried. The Marquis's jaw tensed, his eyes fixed on the floor. I heard rumors during my time at the academy, Sharon said softly. But I never thought they might be true. Ethel knew those whispers were first spread by one of Landro's political enemies. But now she had the chance to use them, to turn them into a weapon. If she pushed hard enough, he would come running to her begging for a divorce, just to silence the rumors. Did he warn you about anything before the wedding? Sharon asked. No, Ethel said. Nothing. Sharon exhaled slowly. That's awful. Terence muttered, he's worse than I thought. Ethel told them about the incident with the wedding dress, how Lena had tried it on without permission, how the entire family treated her like a placeholder. He's insane, Sharon said after listening. And this marriage is deeply flawed. You've endured so much. Tears welled up in Ethel's eyes. Thank you for listening. Sharon looked alarmed. Oh no, please don't cry. The Marquis wordlessly offered her a handkerchief. Ethel took it with shaking hands and smiled at him. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to fall apart like that. Sharon sat straighter, her voice quieter now. I never imagined you went through all this. And I'm so sorry that you had to. Ethel shook her head. I let it happen. I stayed quiet. Until now. She placed a small velvet pouch on Sharon's desk. This is an advance, Ethel said. If you take my case, I'll pay you more. Use it to pay off your debts and hire help. Sharon opened the pouch and stared at the contents. Her hands trembled. Is something wrong? Ethel asked gently. The lawyer looked up, her face pale. It's not enough. Not to clear my debts, let alone hire anyone. Ethel winced. I should have demanded more gifts. More jewelry. You don't have to pay me, Sharon said quickly. Just the legal costs. That's all. Terence took the pouch, returned it to Ethel and pulled out a blank check. He handed it to Sharon. Write down whatever amount you need. Present it at the Imperial Bank. Sharon gasped. Her hands shook as she took the check. I want your full attention on this case, he said calmly. No distractions. No other clients. She glanced down and saw his name printed at the top. Don't tell anyone I'm involved, he added, eyes narrowing. Do you understand? Sharon nodded quickly. I won't say a word. Ethel looked at him with a grateful smile. He's doing more for me than I ever asked for. Thank you, she said softly. You're helping me more than anyone has. Terence didn't respond. He was staring at the desk, lost in thought. Why is he doing all this for me? She wondered. I have one more request, she added. He raised an eyebrow. I recently saw a woman named Anna. I think something strange is going on with her family. Could you investigate? Sharon gave a confident smile. Leave it to me. Ethel turned to Terence. I thought you'd need more time to consider our deal. You revealed your identity to the lawyer, she added with a sly smile. So, I guess you've already decided. I'm a simple man, he replied with a shrug. I don't like overthinking. Liar, she thought, but she was still glad. Very glad. Thank you, for paying on my behalf, she said. I'll repay you. Don't worry about it, he said. Your tea is priceless. Ethel grinned. If you help me win this divorce, I'll brew it for you every day. I'll hold you to that. I'm changing hotels again today, she added. Just need to grab my things. I don't want the Cashes to know where I'm staying. You're not going back to the hotel, Terence said, his tone even. She blinked. What? We're going to my estate. She froze. You're bringing me to your home? No, he replied. To my unofficial residence. It's outside the capital. It's registered under another name, so the Cashes won't find it easily. Ethel relaxed a little. In that case, I'd be happy to stay. Terence smiled. Then we're officially in the same boat. He offered her his hand. She took it, shaking it firmly. Why is he being so kind? She wondered. You won't regret this, she said, watching him closely. Terence sighed. This isn't like me at all. Jack, his assistant, overheard and tilted his head. Sir, why did I give her that check? He murmured. I was supposed to wait and see how things played out. Jack grinned. She must be a special guest. Stop talking, the Marquis snapped. Get ready. For what? We're going to Ashton. Jack's jaw dropped. Ashton? As in, the capital of the Duchy of Cashes? When they arrived in Ashton, Ethel felt a thrill in her chest. Terence smiled. We're a little ahead of schedule. She grinned. Traveling first class really is something. Is the maid coming to meet you? He asked. She will, Ethel replied. If she's still at the estate. Laura had been her only ally in that house, assigned as her witness for the divorce. Ethel had sent a letter by mail, hoping she would come. Terence glanced toward the fairgrounds. Looks like there's a festival. There's always something going on in this city, Ethel replied. He picked up a mask and handed it to her. Your face isn't widely known, but just in case. She took it, a bit startled. You could have warned me sooner. He grinned. You're charming when you're flustered. Then he paused, staring at a poster. Today's festival is for little Lena's birthday. Ethel chuckled. That's not Lena Cass's. That's my dog. Percy. They just call her Little Lena. The real Lena's birthday is another day, and the celebration for that lasts 15 days. The Duke threw a festival for a dog. Ethel shrugged. He's that kind of man. A voice called her name. She turned and broke into a smile. Laura. The maid ran toward her, throwing her arms around Ethel. It's been too long, my lady. Ethel introduced her to Terence. He's helping me with everything. Laura gave a respectful bow. Did you think about what I asked? Ethel asked. Laura nodded. Of course. I'll stand with you. No matter what. Ethel was stunned. Really? Laura gestured to the suitcase by her feet. They fired me. So I can follow you wherever you go. What? Ethel's expression turned to fury. Who dared to fire you without my permission? The housekeeper. On the day your letter arrived. They sat together on a nearby bench. Laura looked down. They brought portraits of Lady Lena into my room. Said it was hers now. I tried to stop them, but I accidentally stained one of the paintings. That's why they fired me. Ethel's hands clenched into fists. They didn't make me pay for the portrait, Laura added. But they refused to give me a letter of recommendation. I'll never work in another noble house again. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't tell you right away. I didn't want to upset you. You should have told me, Ethel said. I'm upset because you're loyal. That's why they hate you. The Duchy of Cashes, Ethel thought. One of the most powerful families in the empire. And they act like petty tyrants. The festival buzzed around them. Maids passed by, wishing Percy a happy birthday. Suddenly, voices called out again, shocked and confused. What is she doing here? They said the Duke and Lord Landro were still in the capital. Ethel turned, eyes narrowing. Laura told me you tried to hang portraits of Lena in my chambers. The maids trembled. Did I authorize that? She asked. No, my lady. Since when do servants make such decisions? Ethel demanded. The maids were silent, too afraid to answer. Why Lena's portraits? We thought you'd like it, one whispered. Enough, Ethel snapped. All three of you are fired. And you'll receive no letters of recommendation. The maids collapsed to their knees, begging for forgiveness. A moment later, the housekeeper arrived. I apologize, she said quickly. We weren't informed of your arrival. Laura stood trembling behind Ethel. Ethel turned to a nearby maid. What's in that box? Hand it over. The maid flinched. You're speaking to me, my lady? Ethel narrowed her eyes. She knew a confrontation was coming, and she would not back down. Ethel turned the box in her hands and glanced at the housekeeper. This is a magical artifact, the housekeeper explained. It was meant as a gift for Lady Lena. Ethel smiled faintly. Then I'll be the one to deliver it to her. I'm planning a visit to the capital anyway. The housekeeper bowed stiffly. It was I who ordered the portraits to be hung in your chambers. Ethel's eyes narrowed. What right do you have to fire my maid or beat her? Laura trembled beside her, eyes wide with fear. The housekeeper blinked, feigning innocence. It's my duty to manage the maids. No, Ethel snapped. Your authority does not extend to my personal staff. Only I have the right to punish or dismiss Laura. The housekeeper's expression soured. You may request permission from me. Ethel glared. You seem to have forgotten the most basic rules of noble conduct. Your orders don't apply to my attendants. Frankly, I don't understand how Lena thought you suitable for this position at all. The woman's face flushed red. Do not dare question Lady Lena's decisions, she snapped. I may have some power here, But I am not the mistress of the house. Exactly, Ethel said, voice cool. My husband is the Duke's eldest son. The Duchess is long gone. So tell me, who do you think is the rightful mistress of this estate? The housekeeper raised her chin defiantly. Lady Lena is the mistress of this house. Ethel's smile was full of scorn. It seems you've forgotten tradition. Even if my mother-in-law were alive, I would be mistress here. My husband is the legal heir. The housekeeper sneered. Then it seems you don't know everything. The one who holds the key to the family treasury is the mistress of this house. That key, my lady, was handed to Lena by Duke Cassius himself. Ethel stilled. So that's how it is. She recalled the Duke's proud declaration. She's clever even if she's young. I trust her with managing the estate. No one had dared oppose the decision. Not even Ethel's husband. She remembered offering to manage household affairs after the wedding. But Lena had smiled sweetly and told her not to trouble herself. The brothers had praised her selflessness. The Duke had beamed. Now Ethel understood this had all been orchestrated. The housekeeper smirked. You have no authority to punish or dismiss the servants. Ethel's expression darkened. You mock me openly. This is outrageous. I will inform my husband of your disrespect. The housekeeper bared her teeth in a grin. The young master himself agreed it was better to entrust the household to Lady Lena. Ethel smiled coldly. Good. Confession recorded. The magical artifact hidden in the gift box had captured every word. This recording would be valuable in court, proof that Lena usurped her rightful role with her husband's blessing. Well, Ethel said with an exaggerated sigh. It seems there's nothing I can do. The housekeeper's grin widened. Indeed, my lady. Though your status is higher, we still treat you with respect. Ethel turned her back on her, waving a hand dismissively. Do what you will. I'm going to my chambers. She paused only to smile at Percy, the birthday pup, and wish him well. He barked happily, wagging his tail. If not for Percy's birthday, Ethel thought, that magical voice recorder wouldn't even be here. Lena had acquired many such devices, sponsored by an eccentric aesthetic scientist whose loyalty she'd earned through foresight from her past life. Lena used these artifacts to document her beloved pet's birthdays and everything else of importance. But as the housekeeper followed behind, shouting, Ethel opened her door and froze. Her chambers were filled wall to wall with portraits of Lena. Her anger surged. Tell me, she said, turning back, are all these supposed to be gifts? The housekeeper answered proudly, they're the latest works of an artist under the Duke's patronage. Ethel sneered. Then, as a gesture of gratitude, I'll do what I want with them. Maids, take them down. Immediately. The maids hesitated. Do you want them destroyed, my lady? Yes, Ethel said flatly. Terence stepped on one of the canvases and ground it under his heel. This is what you do with garbage, he said with a smirk. The housekeeper gasped. You dare insult Lady Lena this way? Insult her? Ethel echoed, her voice dripping sarcasm. You really think these pitiful attempts at art capture her beauty? Are you blind? The maids and servants stood frozen in silence. These paintings are a mockery, Ethel continued. You think her likeness can be copied with a brush and paint? No picture can match Our Lady's charm, the housekeeper muttered. Then why hang them? Ethel snapped. Why fill my walls with this nonsense? She turned to the maids. Destroy them. Still, they hesitated. Laura stepped forward and hurled a canvas against the wall with a loud crash. These blasphemies should be destroyed, she cried. The housekeeper fell to her knees. Please stop. These were meant as gift. I asked the artist to paint them. Ethel narrowed her eyes. Are you saying Lena ordered this? No, it was me, the housekeeper admitted. Then you'll answer for it. But, she pleaded, at least don't punish the paintings. Punish me instead. Ethel laughed bitterly. Sadly, I don't have the official title of mistress of this house, so I have no authority to punish you. The housekeeper lowered her head. You are the mistress. We were wrong. Please, forgive us. No, Ethel replied, stepping aside. You should be begging Laura's forgiveness. She was the one you punished without cause. One by one, the servants turned to Laura, eyes brimming with tears. They whispered apologies and begged for her pardon. Ethel leaned close to Terence and murmured, "This isn't usually my style." Terence chuckled. "I never knew you admired Lady Lena so passionately." Ethel shot him a glare. "Are you enjoying this?" "Just a little." She pouted, cheeks pink. Then, turning back to the housekeeper, she said coolly, "I have duties to attend to. You may leave." With a flick of her wrist, she dismissed the woman. Ethel began packing her jewelry in haste. Quietly, she and her companions slipped out of the estate. She had no intention of ever returning. "We'll go out through the garden wall," she whispered. Just as they reached the back, a familiar voice called out. "The butler." He smiled gently. "We haven't seen each other in some time." Ethel's expression turned wary. "You knew about the divorce." "The young master and the Duke mentioned it," he said with a nod. "Are you going to stop me?" she asked coldly. "No," the butler said softly. "I only came to say goodbye." She blinked. "Goodbye." He bowed. "Regardless of the trial's outcome, your heart no longer belongs to this house." A loud crash startled them. Ethel grabbed Laura's hand. "Let's go." As she ran, she glanced over her shoulder. The butler stood watching them disappear, making no move to stop them. Terence caught up beside her. "We should get to the station." "Wait," Ethel said, breathless. "Why did the butler let us go so easily?" "He's the only person in that household with an ounce of common sense," Terence replied. Laura smiled. "He took care of me too. Sent me on errands into town. Gave me pocket money." Ethel's eyes widened. "Really?" Laura nodded. "I know where he lives." "I need to speak with him again," Ethel murmured. "If he becomes a witness, someone who's been in the Cash's estate from the beginning, it could change everything." Laura took them to the butler's home. The head maid, Miss Gerson, greeted them. "The master's wife passed years ago," Laura whispered, "so don't mistake her role." They were led into a modest sitting room. Ethel's eyes landed on several beautifully carved wooden figurines displayed on a shelf. Miss Gerson followed her gaze. "The young master carved those." Terence pointed at one. "That one's particularly fine." Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hall. A young man peeked in, startled. "Joshua," Miss Gerson called gently. He froze, wide-eyed with fear, and bolted back upstairs. The room fell silent. "I'm sorry," Miss Gerson whispered. "Joshua experienced something traumatic. He's been afraid to leave the house ever since." Terence frowned. "Was it my sword?" "Yes," she said. "He's terrified of blades. Even kitchen knives. And balls?" Ethel asked curiously. "Any round object." "It's a phobia." Just then, the butler burst into the room. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "We came to talk," Ethel said. "You seemed eager to let me leave earlier. But now you're upset." The butler dismissed Miss Gerson and sat heavily on the couch. "I'm not ashamed of my son," he said. "But you had no right to just show up." Ethel met his gaze. "This isn't about your son. It's about your loyalty to a man who deeply harmed him." The butler paled. "It was an accident." "No," Ethel said quietly. "The Duke aimed the ball at him. Deliberately." The Marquis and Laura sat stunned by the butler's quiet confession. "The Duke saw Joshua giving a gift to his daughter," the butler said, voice shaking. "He was furious. He grabbed his sword and pointed it at the child." Laura gasped. The Marquis stiffened beside her. He couldn't comprehend how a boy of Joshua's status could dare to offer something to his daughter, the butler continued. "Lena tried to intervene, and it didn't come to bloodshed, but Joshua's first love turned into a lifelong nightmare." He paused, tears welling in his eyes. "Every time I see her, Lady Lena, I see my son, trembling and pale. I should have left the caches long ago, but I gave them my youth. The Duke is not evil. He helps the weak. He says his castle is a place where everyone, regardless of status, will find happiness. But his voice faltered. I stayed because I knew if I left, he'd make sure we'd never find peace again. Ethel's gaze softened. It's a tragic story, she said gently. But, would you be willing to testify in court? The butler didn't respond immediately. She stepped closer. If you still love your son and want to see him heal, please contact me. I understand you've spent a lifetime serving the Duke. But it's not too late to spend the rest of it beside your son, happy and free. The butler bowed his head as she turned away. Later that evening, as they found themselves without a train, Ethel smiled. Let's stay at a hotel tonight. It'll be my treat. She thought of how the villains in the original novel ended with nothing, and the heroine was surrounded by loyal friends. But she wondered now, was that Ethel truly happy? The next morning at the station, Ethel saw a familiar figure waiting for her. The butler. She smiled. You came. He nodded gravely. Is there a way to cure my son? There are doctors in the capital, she said. They've begun combining treatments, medicinal and mental health therapies. It's not hopeless. The butler's shoulders sagged. I hid him away all these years. I didn't know what to do. You said the Duke isn't a villain, Ethel continued. Maybe he never meant to hurt him. But he did. And if there's even a chance at an apology, a real one, you owe it to your son to try. The butler hesitated. I haven't decided yet. That's all right, she said softly. You know where to find me. He bowed deeply. Whatever happens, you have my gratitude. Later, as she rejoined her companions, Ethel asked Terence how he felt. He smiled. The tea tasted perfect today. You always say that. He chuckled. It always tastes different. Maybe I'll never make it the same way. Maybe that's the point, she said warmly. She was happy to begin each day with him, tea shared in quiet companionship. I have business today, he said, a little sheepishly. So I can't accompany you to the lawyer's. That's fine, she said with a smile. But I've arranged a deputy. She blinked. A deputy? A tall, composed woman entered the room. She bowed. My name is Vanetta. I'll be Lady Ethel's bodyguard while the Marquis is away. Sharon eyed her. Did you attend the academy? Vanetta nodded. Yes. The Marquis recognized my potential and supported me. She turned to Ethel. Please don't misunderstand. There's nothing between us but professional respect. Ethel laughed. No need to worry. I trust you both. Just then, a servant knocked. Lady Ethel, Duke Cash's younger son, has arrived. Ethel's eyes narrowed as she turned and saw her husband stride in. He looked around and said with a smirk, hired a high-priced lawyer, I see. Must be expensive. What do you want? She asked coldly. He smiled. All this is my money. Before the wedding, you had nothing but those abandoned mines. Ethel laughed bitterly. And now you want to take back the gifts you gave me? He stiffened. Where are you living? Better if you don't know. His smile slipped. You're really making this difficult. Oh. Her voice turned sharp. You think I should apologize for everything? You removed my sister's portraits from the walls. She's devastated. She should be, Ethel snapped. She usurped my place in that house. My father won't forgive you. Even if you beg. I'm not going back. Not ever. Lena convinced him to give her another chance, he said, voice rising. She's an angel. Ethel folded her arms. Is that why you're here? To tell me how holy she is? No. He hesitated. Someone wants to see you. The Countess. Ethel froze. The Countess. Her mother. In the novel, the original Ethel had been sold into marriage by her impoverished noble family. They wouldn't welcome a divorce, not when the money was at stake. Still, Ethel wasn't that girl anymore. I'll come, she said. Let's get this over with. They entered the restaurant together. The room buzzed with whispers. Weren't they getting divorced? Why are they together? Inside, Ethel saw her mother smiling. My daughter, the Countess beamed. Don't come any closer, Vanetta said sharply, stepping between them. She's my mother, the Countess snapped. Even so, Vanetta said, calm and unbending, you must request permission to approach. Landro shouted, you forget your place. You shut up, Ethel snapped. Everyone fell silent. The Countess's smile faltered. Darling, I missed you. No hugging, Ethel said flatly. Don't touch me. The Countess blinked. What's wrong with you? I'm cutting ties with this family. What are you saying? You heard me. If something is bothering you, just tell me. I won't lend you any more money. I won't pay off your debts. The Countess gasped. Shut your mouth, you ungrateful. Don't speak to her like that. Landro barked. The Countess swallowed her rage and forced a smile. She's not usually like this, she's a sweet girl. Landro gave Ethel a smug look. She'll come around. He stepped out of the room, leaving them alone. The Countess turned to Vanetta. Leave us. No. We just want to talk. You're not alone, said a voice. A boy stepped forward. Robbie, the quiet helper from the lawyer's office, had followed them in. Who is that? The Countess snapped. An errand boy, he replied with a bow. Here with us the whole time. The Countess scowled. Then both of you leave. They'll stay, Ethel said. A long silence stretched. The Countess sat with false civility. Let's eat. You'll see, the food's very good. Ethel stared. She's shifting tactics. Just like in the novel. Rare flashes of warmth were the only things keeping the old Ethel obedient. I worked hard, she said, voice cold. I thought maybe I'd finally earn your love. The Countess blinked. I see now I was wrong. She stood. I'm leaving. Sit down, the Countess snapped. You think marrying a duke's son makes you untouchable? Vanetta moved to shield her. The Countess stepped forward again. I raised you. You fed and clothed me, Ethel said. That's what every mother is supposed to do. And even that, you didn't always manage. The Countess went pale. After my wedding, Ethel said, you never visited. You only wanted money. For Sam's failed ventures. You didn't even get the money from me, you got it from my husband. You couldn't lend a little to your family. How could I? Ethel snapped. I'm divorcing your meal ticket, remember? The Duke is furious, the Countess screamed. Now we'll lose everything. Then you shouldn't have taken what you couldn't repay. I'm your mother. The Countess lunged. Vanetta twisted her arm, pinning her. I gave you life, the Countess shrieked. Ethel raised her arm and slapped herself instead. Then she collapsed against the wall, sobbing. I begged you not to make me do it. You made me cook, clean, sew, and took every coin I earned. Robbie looked horrified. You made your daughter do all that. And she beat me, Ethel whispered, tears flowing. Hands and feet. If I disobeyed. Robbie shouted, that's monstrous. I didn't want to marry him, Ethel sobbed. You forced me. People had gathered. Whispers began. She was forced into marriage. That poor girl. Ethel stared at the boy in surprise. He had brought not only her husband, but an entire crowd of onlookers. Clever boy, she thought. Brave, too. Just moments earlier, outside the door, Robbie had tugged on Landro's sleeve. Something feels wrong, he had whispered. Lady Cassius is in there. Please, check on her. Landro hesitated, then flung open the door. Inside, Ethel stood with tears in her eyes. Her voice trembled. I didn't want to marry a stranger, she said. I was afraid of Duke Cassius the Younger. But my parents insisted. They said I had to do it. To repay their debts. Gasps rose around them. Did she just say her parents sold her? I heard the Valley families in debt up to their necks. Monstrous. The crowd's sympathy shifted instantly. The whispers grew louder. Eyes turned to the Countess, who now stood frozen in place. I loved you, the Countess protested. All of this is untrue. You drove me mad, Ethel shouted. And I had no say in it. The audience fell silent, shocked by the weight of her words. A noble daughter, forced into marriage. A mother, exposed as the one behind it all. I won't obey your will anymore, Ethel declared. As of today, I renounce the Valley family. Vanetta pressed a cold compress against her cheek. Ethel winced from the sting. You really hit yourself hard, Vanetta said with a frown. But, did it work? Ethel offered a tired smile. Perfectly. Just like we planned. The Countess gaped. What did you say? Landro stepped forward, his face stony. Leave. Now. Robbie opened the door with swift, purposeful movement. Let's not make a scene, he said coldly, guiding the Countess out. Landro turned to his wife, his expression unreadable. I didn't know, he said softly. I didn't realize you went through all that. Ethel's eyes burned. That's because you never asked. You never noticed my family never visited. You never once wondered why. Landro said nothing. Vanetta glanced between them. One last crisis, she said. Ethel frowned. What crisis? Vanetta only sighed. When they returned to the villa, the Marquis was waiting. Welcome back, he greeted, then froze at the sight of her bruised cheek. His expression darkened. Who did this? Ethel stepped back slightly, unsure how to explain. Who? He repeated, more forcefully. I did, she said at last. I hit myself. Terence blinked. You, what? It was my plan, she explained quickly. Vanetta didn't know. It's not her fault. Vanetta knelt immediately. It is my fault. I couldn't stop her. I failed to protect her. Ethel stared at her in amazement. Loyal. Honorable. Perhaps the most responsible person she'd met in ages. The Marquis sighed, then forced a small smile. A bold plan, he said. Now come. You must be hungry. As they sat down to dinner, Ethel noticed his distant expression. What's bothering you? She asked. He looked at her, surprised. Isn't it obvious? You. All of you. There have been attacks. I worry. We're partners, she said gently. And yes, I know you've helped me more than anyone. He smiled faintly. And you've helped me. That tea recipe alone is priceless. I'll teach someone to brew it properly, she said with a laugh. Actually, that's something I wanted to discuss. After dinner, she replied, smiling. Later that evening, they strolled the estate grounds. Ethel ran into him again near the veranda. Out late? She asked, surprised. I could ask you the same, he said, teasing. And why don't you ever call me Terence? I didn't mean to, she said sheepishly. It slipped. But if you like, I'll call you that from now on. And I'll call you Ethel, he said warmly, repeating her name a few times. She flushed and took a swift sip of wine. He touched her cheek gently. Is it better? Much, she said. Thanks to your ointments. You need to take care of yourself more. I'm trying. He looked down. My father's wife hated me. I would have left long ago, if I could. Ethel studied him. Your family's situation is much more dangerous than mine. Is it? He said softly. Feels the same to me. They stood quietly for a moment, side by side. Have you thought about what you'll do after the divorce? He asked. I might leave the empire. He flinched. Leave. Everyone knows my business now. Lena's set to marry the crown prince. The cashes will rise higher than ever. I can't bear to cross paths with them again. She glanced at him. I might take a few friends and start fresh elsewhere. His face fell. You're really going to leave? He asked. She hesitated. I should have told you earlier. No need to apologize, he said. I just thought I meant more to you. Ethel looked at him in shock. Terence. He raised his glass. A toast. To cooperation. She clinked hers against his. To cooperation. And to achieving our goals. He smiled faintly. Do you know what my goal is? To become crown prince. He looked away. I'm not sure anymore. You'll figure it out, she said gently. The next morning, a letter arrived, no sender. Robbie handed it to her. He said you'd understand. Ethel read it, then stood abruptly. I have to go. Moments later, she found the butler in the square. Is this meeting safe? She whispered. I taught those guards myself, he said. Let them try and stop me. How's your son? He blinked. You asked about him, not the trial? Ethel smiled. His more important. He agreed to seek treatment, the butler said, tears in his eyes. A good boy. And I should have taken him away years ago. Then take comfort, she said gently. He believes in you. The butler nodded. And I'll testify. You will? Ethel gasped. There's a seat for me at the witness stand, right? She laughed and quickly covered her mouth. Of course. In the capital, the streets were filled with shouts and celebration. The Duke's family had arrived. Miss Lena beamed at the crowd, waving gracefully. Reporters jostled to ask questions. Lame grinned at his father. When we go home, I'm riding with Lena. Win at rock paper scissors first, the Duke replied. Inside the court, whispers grew louder. Will the young lord win the case? The journalists shouted from every direction, calling out to the young gentleman, pressing for a response. One bold voice rang above the rest. Is it true your wife was abused by her parents and forced into marriage? Landro turned sharply, his eyes narrowing at the question. His jaw clenched in frustration. Before he could respond, Lena stepped forward and gently took her brother's hand. He looked at her, startled. Facing the crowd, Landro forced a calm tone. I will only say this. I hope that soon, all misunderstandings between me and my beloved wife will be resolved, and we will continue our happy family life together. Lena smiled graciously at the crowd. Let us all pray that my brother does not suffer the tragedy of divorce. The crowd applauded, though many journalists exchanged skeptical glances. Their question had been evaded. Then another carriage arrived, and murmurs rose. The ambassador of the Kingdom of Laok had appeared at the court. Is there a diplomatic issue between the Empire and Laok? Someone whispered. The ambassador stepped forward, her presence regal yet warm. I'm not here for politics, she said with a smile. Only to accompany someone of importance, our benefactress and honored guest of the Kingdom of Laok. Lady Ethel Cases. Gasps swept through the crowd. Ethel stepped forward gracefully, her expression composed but resolute. Though I still bear the name Cases, I am doing everything in my power to be rid of it. The ambassador raised her voice. And there is one more person I wish to introduce, my daughter, Diana, who was lost 20 years ago. The journalists exploded into a frenzy. You found her? Where? How? This is a sensation. She was found thanks to Lady Ethel, the ambassador said proudly. His Majesty the King is overjoyed and has officially invited her to Laok as our family's guest of honor. As the doors to the courtroom opened, reporters swarmed Ethel with questions. How did you find the ambassador's daughter? Will you now abandon the divorce? Ethel stopped and met their gazes. All details will be addressed in court. Inside the hallway, Vanetta approached, calm and professional. Don't worry, my lady. No one will enter the courtroom without permission. Then Landro's voice cut through the crowd. Ethel. She turned in shock. Again. Landro stepped closer, voice low but intense. Even if you were forced to marry me, I swear I'll make you happy from now on. She rolled her eyes. Talk too much and your jaw might fall off. Save it for the trial. Please, he said. Just give me a moment. Lena intervened, placing a hand on his shoulder. I'll talk to her. Ethel stared as Landro nodded and stepped back. His leaving his sister to negotiate his divorce. She thought in disbelief. Lena turned to Vanetta. Could we have a moment in private? Vanetta stood firm. As Lady Ethel's bodyguard, I must. Let her, Ethel said quietly. I'll be fine. As the door shut, Lena grabbed Ethel's hand. Her expression was unexpectedly soft. I heard what your family did to you. It must have been awful. Lena's eyes brimmed with tears. When I was in the orphanage, the director used to beat me. He starved me. I know what that kind of pain feels like. Ethel didn't respond, taken aback. I told on that bastard. He was punished, Lena continued. So I understand. I want to help you take revenge on the valleys. Ethel blinked. I don't want revenge. Lena faltered. But they deserve punishment. Maybe, Ethel said. But we all have different values. I'm not here for vengeance. I just want a divorce. Lena's expression grew desperate. My brother, he's changed. So has my father. They'll pay more attention to you now. You don't have to leave. That's exactly why I must leave, Ethel replied firmly. They still think I'm just looking for affection. That this divorce is a tantrum. But Lena's voice shook. You love him. Don't you? I don't, Ethel said quietly. I never did. I was grateful. I mistook safety for affection. But this marriage was loveless from the start. Lena's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes searched Ethel's face for a lie but found none. There are many couples who live without love, she whispered. I'm not one of them. A long silence passed between them. Then, this is the end? Lena asked. It always was, Ethel replied. And we were never friends, Lena. I told you before I didn't like you. Lena gasped. Liar. Ethel turned toward the door. We're finished. Lena grabbed her sleeve. Please. Wait. Vanetta burst in and gently pulled Ethel away as Lena screamed her name behind them. Ethel was stunned. Why was Lena so unhinged? She thought. She'd read about her in the novel. The noble, kind protagonist. But the girl she'd just spoken to was not the Lena she remembered. She looked back at her, shaken. Did she regress too? Inside the private room, Lena composed herself and entered. I've come, she said calmly. Landro met her with concern. Did you two talk? She only nodded. The Duke approached. Why are you so concerned about a thankless woman? She was mistreated, Lena said evenly. The Duke scoffed. She just wanted attention. She was neglected, Lena said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We will win the case, then we'll all dine together afterward. Lame and Grog exchanged uneasy glances. Lena turned to her brother. What's wrong? Lame handed her the newspaper. You were too busy to notice, but, take a look. She scanned the article. The ambassador's daughter found. Thanks to Lady Ethel Cases. Her smile faltered. She arrived in the ambassador's personal carriage, Lame said. Apparently, she's a benefactor of the family now. And the girl she found? The one reunited with her parents? Landro asked. They say she suffered in a violent marriage, Lame said. This is going to be a public relations disaster. Lena's hands trembled. They're supporting the divorce. Even indirectly, this story made them look like villains. She forced a smile. It's fine. There's no way we'll lose. We have the public, mostly. Landro nodded. My only mistake was being too busy to care. She took the maid too, Lame added. Probably got her to testify. Also, the Duke added, some of the jewels we gifted her, she sold them. Lena remained silent. How? How did she find the ambassador's daughter before me? Lame gave her a sharp look. You okay? She smiled sweetly. Just curious. Landro shrugged. Maybe her lawyer found her. They specialize in divorce cases. Did she ever meet the ambassador before? I don't know. Maybe at a capital gathering. She wandered a lot. It's just coincidence, Lena told herself. Regression isn't common. And she's shown no sign of remembering anything. The bell chimed, the hearing was about to begin. Lena stood. No matter what, she needed to focus on the court now. In the courtroom hallway, Sharon approached Ethel. You're trembling. I know, Ethel said softly. You can do this, Sharon assured her. You'll be fine. This is her first time arguing a case like this, Ethel thought. And it's in front of a full audience. But she nodded. Yes, she whispered. We'll be fine. Terence leaned closer and whispered, under pressure from the Emperor, anyone with ties to the Duke's family was removed from the courtroom. Judges in conflict with the caches were deliberately selected. Ethel narrowed her eyes. So the imperial family's help wasn't about her divorce, it was about taking down the Duke. She had hoped for support, but this was bigger than her. She'd stepped into a political firestorm. The Marquis appeared at the door. May I come in? She blinked, startled. You said you had other matters to attend. He smiled. I handled them quickly. I couldn't miss this. You're attending the trial? She asked. He chuckled. Not just attending, I'm on the jury. I applied in advance, and it was approved. Seems I'm lucky. Lucky, she echoed. I wanted to bring you a gift. He offered her a small, elegantly wrapped box. She opened it and gasped. Chocolate. It's rare and hard to find these days, he said. But I thought you could use the energy. She smiled warmly and turned to the others. Eat one, quickly. All of you. They hesitated. Are you sure we can? The Marquis opened a second box. Absolutely. I brought enough. They each took a piece, faces lighting up in surprise at the taste. Suddenly, the door burst open. A young man rushed in. We're in trouble. The butler, he's been captured by the caches. Everyone froze. What? Ethel whispered. Robbie stepped forward. I contacted him last night after Joshua's episode. He was on his way to the court this morning, but someone must have tracked him. They seized him as he left his house. Ethel clenched her fists. Without the butler's testimony, we're at a disadvantage. She turned to Sharon. Can we delay his testimony? Sharon nodded with a calm smile. Of course. That won't be a problem. Ethel turned to Laura. Can you stretch your testimony? As much as possible. Laura straightened her shoulders. I'll do anything for you. The Marquis stood. I'll find the butler. Ethel stared at him. You would do that? I doubt it'll be difficult, unless they're hiding him in the Duke's mansion. He glanced at Jack. I'll use him as bait. Jack gawked. Excuse me? Relax. I'll get him out in time, the Marquis said smoothly. Trust me. Your efforts won't be wasted. Sharon stepped forward. It's time. Ethel turned to Laura and smiled. Everything will be fine. She took a deep breath. She had to do everything she could now. This courtroom is her battlefield. Later, in the second hall of the Central Court, a murmur rippled through the crowd as the Duke's family entered. The whole family's full of handsome men. Did you hear? The Duchess was struck by her own mother. And the Duke himself brought her here today. Sympathy bloomed in whispers. Ethel smiled faintly. The rumors had taken hold. Good. And best of all, Lena would now be too distracted wondering how Ethel had found the ambassador's daughter to focus on her brother's divorce. The judges entered and called the court to order. The lead judge raised a hand. The court will now hear the petition for divorce. Plaintiff, present your case. Sharon stood. Your Honors, the plaintiff and the defendant were married 2 years ago under the blessings of the Imperial Temple and the chief goddess herself. They vowed to support each other. She glanced toward the defendant. However, the defendant neglected his responsibilities as a husband. He avoided building a normal family life under the pretext of work and failed to intervene when the plaintiff suffered mistreatment in the family home. He frequently used vague excuses, investigated her background without cause, and even stalked her, leaving her in constant anxiety. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The plaintiff does not request compensation or property division. She seeks only a swift and clean divorce. The judges turned to Ethel. Is this accurate? She nodded. Yes, everything is true. I ask only for my freedom. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Frell, the cache's general counsel, rose. Your Honors, this is a tragic misunderstanding. The defendant was overworked managing family lands on his father's behalf. Despite his duties, he provided his wife with generous allowances, fine gifts, and even supported her family's financial troubles. He straightened. It is true they lacked time together. But that's not abandonment. That's duty. And yet, the plaintiff unreasonably demanded time he did not have and insulted his family when he failed to meet those demands. Gasps rose. Ethel blinked. Insulted his family? He forgot their anniversary, the lawyer continued. And yet, he's always supported her. He still loves her. From the defense bench, Landro stood. I made mistakes. But I won't give up on our marriage. Ethel turned, voice cold. You're standing there saying you love me while painting yourself the victim. Do you think that makes you noble? Landro looked startled. Even if you did love me, she said, I'd still divorce you. The crowd murmured again. Her words cut through the courtroom like a blade. The judge raised a hand. This court must determine whether the defendant's actions constitute valid grounds for divorce. Present your evidence. Sharon stepped forward. We call our first witness Laura, a maid from the Cash's estate. Frell objected. She was hired by the plaintiff's family. She's clearly biased. She was hired by the Duke's estate a month before the wedding, Sharon countered. She was paid by them, dismissed unfairly, and the housekeeper admitted as much. The judge waved a hand. Objection overruled. The witness may speak. Sharon turned to Laura. You've served the plaintiff for 2 years. Describe the relationship between the Duke and Duchess. Laura curtsied. There isn't much to tell. They lived in separate rooms. The Duke rarely visited. Sometimes weeks passed without a single conversation. How often did they meet? At first, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, Laura replied. After 6 months, less than twice a month. And those meetings? Usually only during formal events. If not for those, they wouldn't see each other for months. Frell objected again, but the judge silenced him. You may only speak with proper cause. Sharon pressed on. Would you say their relationship was warmer in the beginning? Not at all. My lady tried hard. She invited him for tea, waited at his door. Once, I saw her crying outside his study. Ethel flushed. She had only yawned that day. But there was no going back now. Did he ever show signs of being too busy to see her? Sharon asked. Laura hesitated. He claimed to be, but I saw him relaxing often. When my lady invited him for tea, he'd suddenly decide to take a walk. Gasps and whispers swirled through the room. Why did he marry her at all? Someone whispered. Sharon stepped aside. No further questions. Frell stood. You say the Duke left to walk during tea time. Can you recall the date? Laura thought. It was spring last year, around late spring. Frell nodded. Late spring is also the annual festival for little Lena's birthday. Could it be he was preoccupied with family events rather than avoiding the plaintiff? The courtroom held its breath. The lawyer stepped forward and asked the witness, Do you recall that festival last year? Laura blinked. I do, yes. Sharon immediately stood. Objection irrelevant. That has no bearing on the case. The lawyer raised a hand. On the contrary, I'm establishing the limits of the witness's memory. The judge glanced between them. Proceed, but stay on track. The lawyer smiled thinly. At the Duke's family festivals, staff are served special dishes. Is that correct? Yes, that's true, Laura admitted. And what was the special dish served that day? Laura hesitated, caught off guard. Ethel clenched her jaw. The Duke's household holds festivals twice a month. How could anyone remember one specific meal from over a year ago? Sharon scowled. What does festival food have to do with whether or not the Duke met his wife? The lawyer shrugged. I'm simply illustrating how fragile and imprecise memory can be. If the witness can't recall the details of a routine festival, how can we trust her recollection of the Duke's actions? Sharon bristled. Are you implying that the testimony of a loyal maid is unreliable because she can't remember a meal? I'm saying human perception is flawed, especially from someone with limited access to the Duke's private affairs. Whispers rippled through the audience. Laura stiffened. It's not a lie. I saw what I saw. The lawyer turned back to the court. Ladies and gentlemen, this entire case rests on the idea that the Duke neglected his wife. But how much of that is provable? The plaintiff's maid, loyal as she is, may have drawn conclusions based only on partial glimpses. Ethel narrowed her eyes. He's not wrong, and that's what makes him dangerous. Sharon took a step forward. Then let's examine the facts. I ask the court to review the defendant's travel records. She handed over the documents. The Duke filed monthly reports on business trips, typically one per month, lasting about a week. But we cross-referenced the actual dates and discovered discrepancies. The judge skimmed the documents. The schedule appears busy, but details are vague. Sharon nodded. Exactly. There are records of banquets, a week-long vacation with his family, even a private outing with a visiting princess. Meanwhile, the plaintiff was left behind on the estate. She turned to the Duke's lawyer. You claim your client was too busy for his wife, yet somehow he found time for private leisure. The lawyer responded, family obligations are essential. My client extended invitations to the plaintiff repeatedly. She declined. Ethel's mouth tightened. Lies. And clever ones. The lawyer continued, if either party is guilty of emotional distance, they share equal blame. Sharon glared. You're saying it was her fault? She withdrew, he insisted. The Duke didn't know how to approach her. He lacked experience with women. His intentions were never cruel. Ethel stared at her husband, incredulous. So now he's playing the clumsy, inexperienced victim? Sharon raised her voice. And how many chances did he get? Why didn't he change when his wife begged him to? The lawyer responded smoothly, he didn't have time. The divorce came suddenly. A murmur passed through the audience. The judge rapped his gavel. Court will recess for 40 minutes. Defense, prepare your next witness. As the room emptied, Sharon exhaled. It's not ideal, but at least we get a break. A messenger entered. Excuse me, the Marquis hasn't returned yet. Ethel's eyes widened. He promised. Meanwhile, in a dark carriage, the butler shouted angrily, I told you I needed to speak with the Duke directly. What is the meaning of this? A knight glared at him. The Duke is in court. We're taking you to the main house. The butler narrowed his eyes. Who gave that order? No reply. He sighed. Let me guess. Lena. The knight said coldly, Lady Lena's authority is equal to the Duke's. You should know that. She brought me into this family, the butler muttered. But the Duke, he is my master. Not anymore, the knight said. The butler stared down at the floor. A lie, then. And I fell for it. Suddenly. Crash. Glass shattered as a figure burst through the window. Swords flashed. The knights recoiled. What? Who are you? The man grinned. Just a warrior of justice. Moments later, 2 riders galloped across the city, the butler clutching tightly behind the Marquis. You didn't kill them, did you? The butler asked. The Marquis grinned. Of course not. Death would only complicate things. The butler stared. How did you know where I was? I marked you. A trace of my power, back at the lawyer's office, during our last conversation. The butler exhaled. So you suspected this would happen? I didn't trust anyone. Not even you. Apologies. No need, the butler muttered. Thanks to you, I can still testify. The Marquis winced, wiping sweat from his brow. You're not okay, the butler said. It's just the power strain. Nothing serious. I have holy water from the goddess of victory, remember? Together, they urged their horses faster toward the courthouse. Back in court, the judge called the room to order. Defense, present your next witness. The Duke's lawyer nodded. We call Madam, the senior maid and chief of staff. Madam entered with a composed expression and bowed. Madam, the lawyer began, as the head of household staff, can you tell us about the marriage between the plaintiff and defendant? She sighed. The young duchess was kind. But she kept her distance. She refused gifts from the staff. She rarely attended banquets. Because they were Lena's banquets, Ethel thought. And the gifts were portraits of Lena. Madam continued. We felt she looked down on us. And the young duke. He worked tirelessly. Once, he even asked me to look after the duchess myself. Ethel barely held back a laugh. He dumped his responsibilities on her and called it care. He was always busy, Madam added, while the duchess spent her time at book clubs or shopping. Gasps filled the courtroom. Shopping. Sharon stepped forward, face calm. Madam, as the estate's housekeeper, shouldn't the duchess have been managing the household? She wasn't assigned that role. And why not? Sharon pressed. She is the duke's wife. Madam's eyes flickered. She wasn't accustomed to managing such a large household.